She was bleeding in the dirt, and he refused to walk away. The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke still rose from broken machines and burned trees. Bodies, both human and alien, lay still across the muddy ground. The fighting had stopped, but the war hadn't ended. Jordan, a human field medic, moved carefully through the wreckage. He carried a small scanner in one hand and a medical pack on his back. His boots were soaked with mud and blood. He hated this part. Looking for survivors after the chaos. A beeping sound came from his scanner. Faint life sign. He stopped walking. The signal was weak, almost gone. He turned toward a pile of rubble near an old supply truck. Something was lying there, half covered in ash and leaves. Jordan stepped closer. It was a body. Female. Not human. She had pale silver skin and long black hair matted with dirt. Her uniform was torn, soaked in dark purple blood. Her chest moved. Barely. She was still alive. But not for long. Jordan knelt beside her and checked her pulse. Weak. Slowing. He opened his med pack and reached for the biopatch, then froze. She was Filari, an alien species, once enemies, now shaky allies. He looked at her face. There was no fear in her eyes, no pain, just emptiness, like she had already given up. She opened her mouth slightly. Her voice was dry, quiet. "Don't. Save me." Jordan blinked. "What?" "Let me die." She closed her eyes again. But he didn't move. He didn't leave. Instead, he pulled the biopatch from his kit and pressed it to her wound. Her body flinched slightly, but she didn't fight. "You're not dying today," he whispered. He lifted her carefully into his arms. She was light, too light. Her head rested against his shoulder. Her breathing was shallow. She didn't speak again. His comm buzzed. "Jordan, where are you?" "We're pulling out." He tapped the device. "I found someone." "Is she human?" He hesitated, then said, "No, but she's still alive." "Then leave her, Jordan. Orders are clear. Priority is human survivors only." He looked down at her, then back at the path. "No," he said, and turned off the comm. The old supply station was nearby. Hidden, safe. He carried her through thick trees and broken metal. When they reached the shelter, he laid her on the cot inside. For hours, she didn't wake. Jordan cleaned her wounds, applied medicine, and watched her breathe. Once, she opened her eyes, but didn't speak. She just stared at him. He gave her water. She didn't thank him. She didn't need to. Her eyes said everything. Confused, tired, lost. Night fell. Jordan sat beside her, staring at the quiet hills outside. He had saved many lives during this war, but this time felt different. He didn't know why. Maybe because she hadn't asked for help. Maybe because she wanted to die. Or maybe because she reminded him what it felt like to be alone. The next morning, he found her sitting up. Barely. She didn't run, didn't ask questions. She just looked at him and whispered, "Why?" He didn't understand at first. "Why did you save me?" Jordan didn't answer right away. Then finally said, "Because I saw you breathing, and I couldn't just walk away." She turned her head slowly, looked away, said nothing more. But deep inside, something in her had changed, just a little. A single thought, soft and quiet. Maybe I don't want to die anymore. The days passed slowly inside the small shelter. The war outside kept moving, but here, time stood still. Jordan cleaned the wounds, cooked simple food, checked the radar for danger. And every time he turned around, she was watching. She didn't speak. Not one word since asking why on the first day. But her eyes followed him. Carefully, softly, like she was trying to understand him. He didn't push her, didn't ask questions. He just kept treating her like she mattered. Because to him, she did. Her injuries were healing. The cut across her ribs was closing. The burn on her leg no longer bled, but the wound inside her, still wide open. Jordan sat across the room one morning, writing in his old notebook, a habit he had kept since the war began. She lay on the cot, pretending to sleep, but her eyes were open, just a little. Watching. He knew, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he spoke softly to the room. My sister used to watch me like that. She was younger, always quiet, never said much. But when she looked at me, I knew she was listening. He turned the page. She died before the war. Sick, fast. I couldn't help her. He looked up, just once, and saw her eyes close, but not because she was sleeping, because she was hiding something. Later, he placed food beside her. Simple soup, soft bread, nothing heavy. She didn't touch it, so he walked away. But when he looked back 20 minutes later, the bowl was empty. That night, he left a blanket near her cot. She hadn't asked for one. She never did. But the next morning, she was wrapped in it. Still no words. But now, her silence felt different. Not cold. Just careful. On the fourth night, he heard something strange. A small sound. Not from outside. From her. He turned. She was looking out the window. The stars were bright that night. And she whispered, barely loud enough to hear. They said I was useless. He blinked. His breath caught. She didn't turn. Just kept staring at the stars. They left me behind. Because I failed. Jordan walked slowly to her side. Stood next to the window. He didn't touch her. Didn't speak. Just stood. With her. After a long pause, she added, I wanted to disappear. But you wouldn't let me. He looked at her. You didn't fail, he said. You survived. She turned toward him, slowly, eyes wide. For a moment, she looked like she might speak again. But she didn't. She only nodded. Once. That night, she slept with the blanket pulled tight around her. And for the first time, her breathing sounded calm. Jordan smiled to himself. He didn't need to fix her. He just needed to be near. To remind her, quietly, she was still someone. And outside, in the cold wind beyond the trees, a silent drone floated high above the shelter. It scanned her energy signature, her heart rate, her brain waves. It sent one message. Target still alive. Emotional activity detected. Possible human interference. But inside the shelter, for now, she was safe. Because someone saw her and refused to walk away. It happened just before dawn. Jordan woke up to the sound of the front door alarm. Soft, but urgent. He sat up, heart racing. She was gone. The cot was empty. The blanket dropped on the floor. The back door was slightly open. Rain was falling outside. Cold. Hard. He ran out barefoot, calling into the dark. Sheeta. That's what she had told him her name was, 2 nights ago. The first word she gave him. And now, she was disappearing again. His boots sank into the wet ground as he moved through the thick trees. The scanner in his hand blinked, faint energy just ahead. He found her near the edge of the forest. Collapsed, barely conscious. Her skin was cold. Her lips trembling. Why? He whispered, kneeling beside her. Her eyes opened slowly. Not surprised. Not scared. Just tired. I don't belong here. He picked her up again, just like the first time. She didn't fight, but she didn't hold on either. She was fading. Back inside the shelter, he placed her near the heater, wrapped her in a dry towel, gave her warm water. She drank, barely. Then her voice broke the silence again. I wasn't meant to survive. I was trained to fight. I failed my mission. My unit left me behind. Jordan sat on the floor beside her, dripping wet. You didn't fail, he said quietly. You're still breathing. That means something. She turned her face toward the wall. I ran because I was afraid. Not of you, but of what I might feel if I stayed. That hit him like a quiet explosion. She didn't run because she hated him. She ran because he wasn't cruel, because he was kind, because he saw her. He reached out carefully, placed his hand near hers, not touching, just near. She looked down, and this time, she moved her fingers slightly and touched his hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He shook his head. "You don't have to be. You're allowed to be hurt. You're allowed to be lost. But you're not allowed to give up." A tear slid down her cheek, her first one. And it wasn't because of pain. It was because someone had finally said the words she didn't know she needed. Later, she fell asleep on the cot. But her face looked different now. Not blank. Not hard. Peaceful. Jordan sat by the window, watching the rain slow. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But he knew this. He wasn't just healing her wounds anymore. He was helping her find her will to live. Far above, the hidden drone scanned again. But something had changed in its report. Target now stabilized. Emotional sync with human detected. Risk level, unpredictable. And for the first time, it didn't send an alert. Because even machines can feel hesitation when they witness something that looks like hope. The shelter was quiet again. But this time, it was not heavy silence. It was gentle, like two people breathing together without needing words. Sita sat near the window, wrapped in her blanket. Jordan was across the room, fixing the broken power unit. The heater had glitched during the night. The rain had stopped outside. The clouds were starting to clear. He looked up and saw her watching him again. But this time, her face was different. Not guarded, not empty. Something inside her had shifted. "I was trained at 9 cycles," she said. Jordan dropped his tool in surprise. She continued, voice soft but steady. "Combat, obedience, field medicine. My body was engineered, my mind conditioned." She stared out the window. "I had one purpose: to serve, to fight, to follow." Jordan slowly walked over and sat beside her. He didn't speak. He just listened. Sheeta's hands trembled slightly in her lap. "I followed every command. I never asked questions. Until my last mission." Her voice lowered. "We were told to clear a sector. I found a nursery. Alien children. Scared. Hiding. I refused to harm them." Jordan blinked. His heart ached. "Your own team turned on you." She nodded slowly. "They called me a failure. Weak. Unfit for duty. They shot me. Left me in the dirt. And when I woke up, I begged for death." Jordan stared at her, and suddenly everything made sense. Her silence. Her fear. Her shame. "I wasn't supposed to feel," she whispered. "But when I saw those children, something broke free. And when you touched me, something broke open." Jordan gently placed his hand over hers. Not as a doctor, not as a rescuer, but as a witness to her pain. "You didn't break," he said softly. "You woke up. You became something stronger than what they made you." Sheeta's eyes glistened, but she didn't look away. "Do you think I can still become someone?" He nodded. "You already are." She closed her eyes, and this time a tear fell. Not from grief, from release. They sat together, close, quiet. And Jordan knew. He wasn't just helping her heal. He was watching her transform. That night, she asked for something new. "Can I sit near you?" Jordan smiled and moved over on the cot. She sat beside him, their shoulders barely touching. But it was enough. Enough to feel safe. Enough to feel real. And far above them, in the quiet reaches of the sky, the drone still watched. But now, its scan couldn't understand what it saw. Emotion detected. Comfort, peace, trust. Report status: incomplete. Reason, human Xan and bond no longer predictable. And for the first time since the war began, the machine didn't know what to do. Because this wasn't war anymore. It was connection. The wind had changed. It blew harder that morning, carrying a dry, humming sound. Jordan stepped outside, scanning the sky. The sun was dim, and something didn't feel right. Too quiet. Too still. Inside, Sheeta sat beside the heater, her hand steady now. She was healing, slowly but truly. When Jordan walked back in, his face was tight. "We need to move," he said. "Now." She stood without hesitation. "What is it?" He checked his scanner. "Motion west of the hill. Not animals. Too organized. 3, maybe 4, armed." Sheeta's body stiffened. "Rickon scouts." He nodded, probably tracking energy pulses. He looked at her. "I won't let them find you." She raised an eyebrow. "You won't let them?" Jordan sighed. "You know what I mean." "Yes," she said, stepping toward the door. "I do." He stopped her. "What are you doing?" "Ending the running. They want to erase me. They will not erase us." Jordan grabbed his pack. "We'll make it to the tunnels." But she didn't move. "You saved me when I had nothing left. Now I stand for you." He tried to argue, but she placed her fingers gently on his lips. "You believed I could still be someone. Now let me prove it." The first blast came minutes later. A warning shot. The ground shook. Leaves burned. Sheeta stepped out, her skin faintly glowing under the sun. Jordan hid behind the rocks, heart pounding. "Sheeta, don't." But she raised her hand, and the air shimmered. A shield. Soft blue light formed in front of her, humming like a song. 3 soldiers appeared through the trees. Armored, weapons raised. One shouted, "Subject 6 to 1. Stand down. Surrender now, and the human will be unharmed." She didn't move. "No." The second soldier aimed. Jordan's breath caught. But before he could fire, Sheeta moved, faster than before. She struck the ground with her palm. A shockwave burst forward, knocking them off balance. She didn't kill them. She didn't need to. She just wanted to show them. She wasn't weak anymore. The third soldier turned and fled, shouting into his comm. "Failed extraction. Subject is active." Within minutes, the squad was gone, and silence returned. Sheeta knelt in the grass, breathing hard. Not from pain, but from release. Jordan ran to her side. "You okay?" She looked up, her skin still glowing faintly. "I didn't run this time." "And you're safe." He helped her to her feet. "We're both safe, because of you." Back inside the shelter, she sat beside him. Neither spoke for a while. Then she turned to him and asked something she never had before. "Are you okay?" He smiled faintly. "I was scared. Not of them. Of losing you." She placed her hand on his chest, right over his heartbeat. "You won't." Outside, the smoke cleared. The hill stood quiet again. But something had changed forever. She was no longer something to be protected. Now, she was a guardian. The fire crackled gently in the corner. Night had fallen, calm and soft. No more soldiers. No alarms. Just quiet. Sheeta sat on the floor, knees pulled to her chest, wrapped in the blanket Jordan had given her. But tonight, her eyes weren't distant. They were warm. Jordan poured water into 2 small cups and handed one to her. She accepted it with both hands. "Thank you," she said softly. He smiled. "For the tea or for today?" She looked down, then met his eyes. "For not giving up on me." He sat beside her, the firelight dancing across their faces. Outside, the trees swayed with the wind. Inside, the silence between them was no longer empty. It was safe. After a while, she asked, "Why do you stay here, with me?" He thought for a moment, then replied, "Because you never asked to be saved. But you stayed alive anyway. That means something. She blinked slowly, her voice quieter now. No one ever told me I meant something before. Until you. Jordan placed his hand beside hers. Not touching, just close. But this time, she closed the space. Her fingers slid over his gently. A small breath escaped her lips, and her skin began to glow, not from pain, not from fear, from peace. He looked down, surprised. Sheeta, you're glowing. She looked at their hands. It's never happened like this before. I was trained to glow during combat. Fear, rage. She paused. Never this. He smiled softly. Maybe this is the real you. She leaned her head on his shoulder, her voice barely a whisper now. What if I don't know who I am without the war? Without being a soldier? He looked at her. Then we'll find out together. They sat like that for a long time. No words. Just warmth. Just being. Later that night, she didn't return to her corner. She stayed near him. Not because she needed protection. Not because she was afraid. But because she finally wanted to. And for the first time since she opened her eyes on that battlefield, she slept without pain, without fear. And when Jordan woke in the middle of the night, he found her still beside him, glowing faintly, breathing slowly, and smiling in her sleep. He didn't wake her. He just whispered, "You're not broken. You're becoming." Far above the shelter, a satellite silently tracked her energy. Its logs recorded the soft, stable light coming from her body. But it couldn't explain the source. No weapon, no command, just a human touch and the quiet glow of healing. The morning light crept through the cracks of the old shelter. Golden, soft, gentle. Sita stood outside, barefoot in the grass, her eyes closed, face turned to the sun. For the first time in years, she wasn't wearing armor. She didn't need it. Inside, Jordan was folding up supplies. Their time here was ending. It had to. But this place had changed them both. Sita stepped in, her voice calm. "Where will you go?" Jordan shrugged. "Back to the city. There's still work to do." He glanced at her. "And you?" She looked down for a moment, then walked closer. "I don't want to go back to my people. I don't want to be a tool again." Jordan nodded. "I wouldn't let that happen to you." She smiled faintly. "I know." He lifted the last bag, sipped it closed, and turned to her. "What do you want, Sita?" Not what the war told her. Not what the program demanded. Just her. She took a breath. "I want to choose. For once, I want something just for me." Jordan waited. She stepped closer. "I want to stay with you." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was full. It was truth. Jordan placed the bag down and smiled. He held out his hand. Not as a soldier. Not as a rescuer. As a man who finally saw her. "Then let's leave together." She took his hand. Her fingers still trembled, just a little. But this time, it wasn't from fear. It was from feeling. As they walked through the trees, her voice broke the silence again. "Do you think they'll understand? The others?" Jordan shrugged. "Maybe not. But that's okay. Because I do." She squeezed his hand tighter. "Then I'll stop hiding." They walked down the hill, side by side. No armor, no orders, just them. And far above, the drone watching her for weeks went silent. Its system couldn't label her anymore. No longer a target, no longer a threat. Just status unknown, peace detected, subject free. Sometime later, in a distant human colony, a new report was filed. First known Velari survivor of emotional defect fully stabilized. No return to military command. Bonded voluntarily with human medic. Recommendation: let her be. And in a small home on the edge of a green valley, 2 cups sat steaming on a table. One for him. One for her. Sita looked at him from across the table. I'm still learning how to be a person. Jordan smiled. Me too. She tilted her head. Do you regret saving me? He didn't even pause. Never. She reached for his hand again. Not because she was afraid of falling, but because it felt right. She was never a mission. She was never a mistake. She was never a machine. Not to him. To him, she was someone worth loving. The end.